our notes, the behind the scenes chat.
I have it. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. We're so glad you're here with us today. I did put a little prompt in there. You can put a GIF in this chat. It's very exciting. So if you would add your favorite GIF in there. If you're feeling shy about that, you can drop an emoji, or you can just, yes, okay, Amanda's in. This is what I like to see. You're welcome to just tell us where you're tuning in from if you feel more comfortable with that. We're going to start here in just a couple of minutes. It is Wednesday. Praise Jesus, we're halfway through. Welcome. Numbers are still climbing, so we're going to wait just a minute. We're really glad you're here, everybody. Oh, Janet's here. Hi, Janet. Drop your favorite GIF. As we're waiting for folks to continue rolling in, I would like to draw everybody's attention to where you are putting your chats and your GIFs, hopefully, and your emojis. You will notice that there is a second tab in that section. It says Q&A. And if you would, as you are watching this presentation, if you have questions, please, please, please put your questions in the Q&A tab. Here's why, is because we've got two wonderful assistants behind the scenes. We've got Mark and Gloria with us today, and they want to answer your questions. But the way that we do that in this particular platform is from the Q&A chat. So it's going to be very tempting to put your question in the chat, but please put it in the Q&A and we'll get those questions answered for you as quickly as we can. We're not going to reserve any specific time during the webinar to answer questions, but if you've got a question that's like super helpful and pertinent to everybody in the room, then we may just address it live, but otherwise Gloria and Mark are going to answer those questions for you. Let's see here. We are... I guess we'll wait just one more minute and then we'll get started. Numbers are still going up quite a bit. Okay. All right. We'll go ahead and get started. Again, welcome. As you're still rolling in, just a reminder, please put your questions in the Q&A. That tab is just above where all those chat comments are coming through. There's two tabs in that section, chat and Q&A. Would love if you would put your questions in the Q&A. We've got a team behind the scenes that is going to answer those as quickly as possible for you. Also, you will notice this says it right on the slide, but yes, this webinar is being recorded. It will be sent to you tomorrow in a follow-up email. That's our number one question with every webinar. Is this being recorded? So the answer is yes, and we're going to send it to you tomorrow. Also, all of our webinar recordings live in our Healthy Church Hub. That is on our Ministry Brands website. The hub is fantastic. It is chock full of helpful resources for you. We've got our podcast there, our webinars there, blogs, some customer stories, which are super fun to pay attention to and watch. That's other churches just like you. We've sat down with them. We've done an interview with them to see what God's doing at their ministry. Super encouraging. It's like my favorite thing in there. But yeah, the Healthy Church Hub is wonderful. Please check it out. So many good things. There's also ebooks in there. So yeah, recording will be in there as soon as probably this afternoon, if not definitely tomorrow. So that's it in the way of housekeeping stuff. We are really excited today. We're being joined by one of our actual church clients. And this is the first time we've done this in a while, having one of our clients on with us. So I'm pumped. I got to meet Jared in person a little while back for a client advisory board meeting, and he's great. So super excited to have him today. And I'm going to let him introduce himself and tell you a little bit more about him. But Kristen is also joining me. She's joined me before. She's one of my dear friends here at Ministry Brands. So I am Jess Moore. If you are new to webinars, this is my regular gig here at Ministry Brands, and I love it very much. It allows me to put together what our product does and how it can serve you best. So it's my favorite part of my job is coming here and sharing time with you all. I've been at Ministry Brands for 5 years, and I am now serving in our marketing on our marketing team, and it's been super fun to be able to help create resources for you all. So, Kristen, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Kristen Foster. So I'm one of our client success associates here at Ministry Brands. Been around for about 3 years here, but before I actually got to work in full-time ministry in the worship sector, and then eventually moved on over to church operations. So it's one of my favorite things to do to get to support churches and help you guys do ministry well and make the biggest kingdom impact. So yeah, I'm excited to be here.
We're so glad you're here. And then Jared, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, I'm Jared Perkins from Plum Creek Christian Church. I'm the executive pastor here, and we're in northern Kentucky, about 20 minutes south of Cincinnati, Ohio. So yeah, I love being part of the Ministry Brands team as a customer, client, and partner, and excited about sharing today.
Thank you so much. All right, so we're going to dive into our content. Kristen has done an incredible amount of work. In her role here, she helps serve many of our clients with one resource or one tool. And so she has been working so hard on this giving campaign content for you. So she's going to kind of drive the ship today. I'm here just for banter and questions. And then Jared is going to share about his success specifically with giving campaigns. And this is the coolest part of what we get to do is work together. I get to take Kristen's knowledge and heart for serving our clients, and Jared's heart for his church and his experience on, boots on the ground. And I just get to put it all together, and we get to talk and help you and encourage you as a church leader. So we're going to talk about what is a giving campaign. And that's kind of the first thing. Let's establish a baseline. And it's a focused effort to invite people further into faith and generosity by encouraging them to contribute financially to a specific goal over a set time frame. Okay, so we're gonna dive into what that looks like. I also want to say, just real quickly, level setting with everybody. I go to a non-denominational Protestant church, and I'll be honest with you, we have maybe one active campaign like once a year. We happen to have an expansion campaign, right? Because we are expanding our locations, our actual buildings. But otherwise, I don't know that Protestant churches really utilize pledges and campaigns as frequently. And that's, it will vary a little bit by denomination. But I don't know that we leverage this opportunity as often as we should. So hopefully this webinar will be encouraging to you to consider actively inviting folks into a specific goal over a set time frame to see how that will exercise your church's automatic faithfulness and engagement with generosity. So just level setting there. And then I'm going to have Jared talk specifically about what they did with their campaign, why it was successful. So Jared, take it away.
Yeah, Justin, that's certainly true for us. We normally don't have specific campaigns. We have our normal generosity and giving. But We really were recognizing that we needed to do a campaign for debt reduction. So we set out to raise $1 million over 3 years. And that was all in addition to our regular giving. So we have about a $1 million annual budget. So we're looking to double that amount coming in over 3 years. We put together teams to help execute that. So it was really cool. We had tons of teams, probably 40 or 50 new volunteers that were helping us make that happen. We had an executive team, which was kind of driving the ship, but we had a team that was doing advanced commitments, affinity groups, celebration, communication, all kinds of a prayer team, which was really cool because that team has continued to work.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, we put those teams together, and then we just started moving forward on this plan, trying to figure out what was going to be the way for us to get to this goal. I think we killed it on communication. I was really excited about that. We were able to use our ministry brand's website and app to be able to communicate what was happening to our folks, and then also just organizing those teams and communicating what was happening to those leaders. We used our people platform. We're able to put together a web page and app, which I think we have some screenshots of later to be able to
Yeah.
share. But we had meals and desserts. We had some really just cool things. One of the events, we had the world's largest charcuterie board, which was really cool.
Oh my gosh, Kevin.
It was amazing. Yeah. So by the time we did our official commitment Sunday, we on the Sunday before we even collected our regular commitments, we already had a commitment of $1 million. We had reached our goal before we actually collected commitments from the general congregation. So on that day, we received another 500,000 in commitments. So we blew our goal out of the water.
Praise
we were
Jesus.
really excited about that.
Okay, so let me break this down really quick because that was very exciting, but also maybe a little bit overwhelming for folks that are like, we don't have 50 volunteers to work with, right? So we're going to sit down with you today because Kristen, like I said, has done so much work on this. And then my friend Janet, who posted a GIF over here, she's in the chat. She's watching us today. She also has worked to put together an ebook. So we're going to talk through practical steps and we're going to learn from Jared on what they did really well. But I don't want you to go into this thinking we have to make the world's biggest charcuterie board, although that would be incredible. And I would love to be invited to that event, please.
Yes, please.
But know that you can still stand up these campaigns and see a ton of success. And really, Jared, what this points to is your people knew the need. They knew the financial amount. There was transparency there, and they were hungry to be involved, right? So that's a big takeaway. Like, people want to be involved. They want to know how to serve. They want to know how to help. They want to know how to contribute. And so this entire webinar is going to break down how you can invite them to participate and do that well. And so we do have screenshots of things specifically that Plum Creek did so well that I would say, hey, if you hadn't considered this, definitely consider it. And it's going to be bite-sized things that you can definitely do. So with that, we'll jump to the next slide here. Okay, so if you've ever been on a webinar with me about giving, you know that there's two like coin terms that I use all the time, or phrases. You want to foster a culture of generosity. Generosity shouldn't be a thing that you just talk about, you know, on Sunday morning and say, it's time to give, and then look at the slide. No, this should be part of your culture as a church, as a ministry. You are a generous church. You reflect Christ through generosity at your ministry or at your church. So that should be part of your culture. And a really, really tangible way to do that is to encourage your folks to give via recurring giving. It's automatic faithfulness is another little phrase that I use all the time, right? So that doesn't mean that people are passively giving to your church. It just means that you are providing an avenue for them to do that in a convenient way that aligns with everything else that we do in culture, right? You are oftentimes paying bills. And I know there's a difference between tithing and paying a bill. I totally get that. But for the sake of convenience, do not shy away from inviting folks to give through recurring giving. It really has been a huge blessing for my family. I didn't know it was a thing until I started working in ministry brands. And so don't shy away from talking about recurring giving. And we're kind of leading the charge here with this, because this is a big part of these pledges and these campaigns, is just saying, hey, if you want to give this amount, you can do it automatically. And here's how. So just want to make sure that we level set there on this should already be, if for this to be successful, you should already be cultivating a culture of generosity, and you should be comfortable talking about recurring giving and automatic faithfulness there.
Yeah. And I think something about recurring giving, just, as we were preparing for this, something that came to me too is like, it's a really simple way to turn good intentions into a lasting impact, right? And I think that's on the screen here, where, I always have the best intentions, especially going into the summer, of making sure I'm staying consistent with my tithe, right? But if I'm not, there because we're traveling on a Sunday during the summer or something like that, sometimes not being in the house in person, right? It kind of slips my mind because I'm wrangling a toddler at the beach somewhere, or I'm wrangling a toddler just at home. And so, it's just a simple way, having that automated. And we're going to talk about how to combat passive generosity, how to combat that set it and forget it mindset, because we don't want recurring giving to feel like a subscription that you just forget about and like check a box, right? This is an act of worship. And so we're going to talk about that later as well. But, this can really help you realize those good intentions and be a good and faithful steward in your church body. So,
yes, love it. All right, so going a little bit deeper here into recurring giving, these stats are phenomenal. Kristen put together most of these slides, I'll be honest with you all, but I've reviewed this deck a number of times, and this truly is so interesting. And we recently did a webinar on the state of church giving, and so that's also very helpful. Numbers align there too. So recurring giving has grown 140%. That is wild. It makes sense. I mean, obviously with COVID, we've seen a lot of things go digital and people putting things on automatic. So that definitely aligns with everything else culturally that you're doing and paying for and giving towards online. But these other ones were so interesting to me. So recurring gifts last for 8 years. That is so cool. That's wild. That is wild to me. And I mean, it makes sense. But yeah, if you don't pause and think about the benefit to that, to your church and your budgeting there, that's a big deal. Oh, Jared, we didn't even give you a chance to really talk about budgeting. So we'll let you talk about that here once we finish through these stats. You can talk about how this has actually impacted your specific ministry.
Okay.
But then two, donor retention at 77% compared to 34% one-time donors. And again, the intention's there, right? The intention is that people want to give. It's just a matter of being present or remembering. And then half of all recurring donors give additional gifts. And that's true. That's true for like even our family, because once it's kind of set on recurring, that's part of our budget. And so if we feel led to give outside of that, then we're no longer looking at our budget, right? We're looking at what do we have extra and what else can we do? So, yeah. These are
Jared, how have you seen the benefits of automated recurring giving, like in your ministry specifically? We'd love to hear how you guys see that.
Well, certainly in the normal giving side, that's been a benefit, because you're right. It helps people just remember and be a part of the generosity that we're doing at Plum Creek. But on the campaign side, it was really helpful because we were talking to folks about a 3-year pledge. And it was nice to be able to communicate to them, like, that a $12,000 pledge, I'm looking at my cheat sheet over here, is $77 a week. So that may have helped them to think about it in more bite-sized pieces.
Yeah,
that's so true.
So we did a commitment card and had them think through the pledge that they wanted to make over 3 years, and then we made it available for them to just do that recurring. So that was really helpful way for our folks to give.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that ties into this next slide. Like, what are the benefits of recurring giving to your donors? And I'm so glad you brought that up regarding bite-sized pieces. I know, Jared, you guys did like actual paper pledge cards, but within the giving platform, we'll look at this in just a minute, but with that functionality, it actually crunches the numbers right there for you. And so let's say you say, okay, I feel like we want to give this amount, like horrible at math, but let's say we want to give, $1,000 or whatever. And then that'll actually, and then you can say like, we want to do it once a month, twice a month or whatever. You can set up the frequency and then it'll break those numbers down. And so in many cases, congregants, members, givers will say, well, actually, we can manage a little bit more than that per month or per week. And that may encourage them to increase their, the total of their pledge. And so, yeah, that's a really key piece right there is the way that pledges kind of break down backwards, back from your total.
I think that speaks to the convenience, right? That of an automated recurring gift, right? And the consistency that it helps you to provide, giving in itself is an act of worship, is an act of obedience. And so it's not that we're trying to make that spiritual discipline, easy for the sake of it being easy, but it helps us, there's just a lot going on in life. And so this is really helpful to help us prioritize that, because in making that commitment and having it to auto withdraw from whatever payment method you put on file, it's kind of an act of trust in the Lord. Like, all right, Lord, I'm committing this to you. It's happening, at whatever frequency we set up. But also the accessibility, right? And just to your point, Jared, those smaller ongoing gifts, they're easier to manage. They're less scary sometimes than a whopping, $12,000 check, because I don't have those lying around. So, it's just, I don't know. I just feel like the convenience, yes, but also it just helps us walk in obedience and trust in the Lord.
It also is just the way people are paying for everything now. That we do get some checks in here at Plum Creek every week. And it's kind of funny when I look at those checks, a lot of times I see the same people giving, and the check order, the number of the check might be check 102, and the next week it's 103. And it's like, we're the only check they're writing. So can we make it more like everybody, every other way they're spending money?
Yeah.
To include that in that is helpful.
Yeah, good call out for sure.
I was also thinking about the budget side, Jess, if I could.
Yes, please.
On the campaign, part of the campaign was that we were going to do a reamortization of our loan. So we've got a due date coming up, actually May 15th. And at that point, whatever we've paid down on debt is going to affect our new payment for the next 2 years. So having these already in through recurring has really helped me be able to forecast what that payment's going to be. And that's true just even on the regular church giving side. I'm able to go and look at our recurring and run reports and see what I expect to come in. So if we have big expenses, we have a couple mission trips that are happening soon, I can kind of forecast where our cash flow is going to be. So to you folks out there that are executive pastors or on the finance teams of your church, that can be a really helpful thing.
Absolutely. And I would take that a step further, and we're going to dive into that here within the next few slides. But Jared, y'all communicated that transparently to your congregation, and that made a huge impact. And so we're going to dive into that, but that's not necessarily information. I mean, it's totally up to your church how transparent you want to be. But I think the level of transparency that you all provided directly impacted the response to the campaign. So I think that's really helpful to know. Okay, so we'll dive in now and start talking through how to actually launch a campaign. And this will kind of be in two parts. Like I said, Kristen did so much good work on this. This is going to be kind of from the thought leadership, like anybody can do this with any platform, right? So there's three major parts to launching a giving campaign. And we're going to provide resources to you in your follow-up email. Like I said, we've got the ebook. It's very robust and complete. It's got sample graphics, sample communication. I think it's got graphics. but definitely a
There's
sample
there's an
communication.
example graphic. Yes.
There's an example graphic. Okay, perfect. But there is communications in there. We're going to look at a timeline. The timeline is also in there. And so then we're going to dive into a little bit of how you can actually do some of these things tangibly within our giving platform. And then Jared's going to sprinkle in some experience. But so just if you are here and you are not part of the Ministry Brands family yet, that's okay. We still love you. You can stay. This is very much going to be applicable to you as well. So diving in, Kristen, I'll let you kick us off with this section.
Yeah, and just a reminder too, like Jess mentioned, this doesn't have to be a mega $1 million campaign. This is very scalable, right? And so if you're new to campaigns, maybe start with a specific cause like missions or disaster relief or summer programming, something tangible, that you can absolutely get your church to rally behind and get excited about supporting. And so how to do that, we want to kind of break that down and see how you can kind of encourage faithful stewardship and kind of continue to promote that within your organization's culture, right? So first step is defining, what's your why? Cast a vision, right? So casting a compelling vision around any campaign, it helps to create excitement around your mission, right? And so the more excited people are, the more likely they are to commit and stay committed, right? And so part two is going to be a little bit twofold, but we'll get into that, is communication. So just like communication is foundational in any relationship, friendships, significant others, communication is also really important in your relationship with your donors. And we're going to speak to that a little bit as well so that you can foster healthy donor relationships throughout not just a campaign season, but in life as you're doing life with your church community. And then finally, celebration, right? Because when the campaign's over, the good work doesn't just disappear, right? We want to celebrate and be grateful and express that gratitude to the donors that have come alongside you in this endeavor, and taken that step in obedience to, follow the Lord and what He's called them to do with their finances. So we're going to jump right in. Talking about what's your why. So what we've done in this ebook, we've provided a compelling vision framework that you can use and fill out yourselves. We've also put some examples in there to help you kind of grasp what we're going for here. But this little worksheet helps you to cast a compelling vision for whatever you're doing. But in this case, this should help you with any sort of giving campaign, right? And so it's going to walk you through describing your current state, right? What do we see now? What do we want to change? What are we going to do about this current state? And then we're going to do the what, right? So what do we want to accomplish? What are we doing here? What's the point of all of this? Describe the why. Why are we doing this? Okay, what's our why? And then the how. So we're going to implement this how, and we'll get into that with the timeline and communication piece as well. The who, we always need to consider our audience, right? And then the when. When are we going to do this thing? And so we're really excited to be able to deliver this to you. It's going to be in the ebook that you're going to receive, so that you can also walk through this and cast a compelling vision for any of your ministry endeavors. But hopefully this will help you with that as well. But I did want to ask Jared, how have you guys done vision casting before with your congregation, and how did you see it make an impact on your campaign?
Yeah, we really went through this process, a very similar framework. And I talked about the leaders that we had before that we pulled in, people who maybe hadn't been super engaged in other ways. We brought all them together and started to dream a little bit about what could be. So we really talked about the situation we were in with our debt. And we were at $1.4 million in debt. We had an $11,000 a month debt payment, and that was starting to really cause us to not be able to do some of the things ministry-wise that we wanted to do. So we started to think about what would happen if we were able to pay that debt off in 3 years. And that, when we set the goal of $1 million, it wasn't going to cover that. So we didn't think as big as God did with the opportunity for that. So yeah, we got those people together. They started to dream about what could happen, and then we started to put a plan into action. a lot of communication with that for sure. But celebration was a big part of that as well. We had a lot of great events. I told you about one of them. Another one we had was a tailgate party. And at these events to celebrate, we weren't raising money. We were just celebrating Plum Creek and what the difference it's made in our lives and the kingdom of God. So as we just thought about that, we wanted to celebrate that and have people in that mindset before they started to think about generosity. So that's what all the events were about. And it was great just bringing people together. Everybody knew what was happening, and we just communicated really well what our goal was, and then how things would look different if we were able to be successful with that goal. So we have a new public school that's going in right next door to us, and we have a ton of ministry we would love to do with that school. We have great relationship with them, and we know if we are able to be involved in that kind of ministry, if we have the money to pull that ministry off, that's going to create a need for us here to have more space for kids ministry on Sundays. It's going to create a need to have more leaders for our small groups. So we were able to communicate all these things as, we weren't just paying off debt. We were funding ministry in the future. As a matter of fact, our motto was, we want to turn our mortgage into ministry. So we spent a lot of time thinking about that.
That's great. That's awesome. And then I added an image here from your website. And essentially this is like your why in a single graphic, right? And this is on your website. I would imagine you did more with it than just put it on your website. I would imagine this was maybe attached to an email or something, but we
actually mailed it to every home. Yeah, this was mailed to every home on our website and our app.
There you go. So I think this is an important piece. Once you've completed that vision, that compelling vision framework, and you've identified all of those pieces as to your why holistically, what is your why for this campaign? If you can, try to consolidate that stuff, all of the goodness, into something, whether it's a graphic or whatever, that you can then share broadly. And then I noticed too, Jared, you guys have a QR code in the bottom right corner. Where does that lead?
The QR code always goes back to our website, the Forward to Freedom website, which was just part of our Ministry Brands website. We created a separate page with all of the resources. Every resource went on that page. Frequently asked questions, back to transparency. When you talked about that, every time someone asked a question, we recorded it, we answered it thoughtfully, and we put it on our website so people could see all of those. And I love that. Some of them were a little tough to answer. So, but we wanted to be really transparent with that. Things like what we had done with money in the past and different things from the past. So we wanted to just be really transparent. And that was the goal from the front end, to really communicate well. When we talked about a successful campaign, we felt like if everyone involved in the campaign felt like it was God honoring, then that was a successful campaign, even if we didn't reach our goal.
Yeah.
If we reached our goal and people felt like we were trying to be weird about collecting money and things like that, that wasn't going to be a successful campaign. And there was never a time that anybody felt that way with the recurring gifts, asking for recurring gifts, asking for big donors. There wasn't a time that anybody felt like we were trying to manipulate or do anything like that.
I love that. That's where that transparency is key. So, thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah. And you mentioned a lot, Jared, how you guys almost like you can't over communicate these things, right? And so we also want to talk about communication strategy and how, like I mentioned earlier, it's kind of twofold, right? So we've got the timeline, kind of figuring out, okay, when are we doing this? What's our end goal? And then kind of working back from there, how are we going to promote with enough time to raise the funds that we need? And then also that can kind of help, then you can kind of plug in the content. What message are we distributing when, right? And so definitely want to speak to that, but we'll start with the timeline. And I'm really excited about this one. So we have actually put together a sample 12-week timeline with potential topics that you could use to promote generosity and in your specific campaigns. So there are broad kind of, one is just a new chapter of generosity. Do with that what you will. But like, having a grateful response, things like that. So we've put in some content that you could consider and use that to formulate your own content, of course. But we've also kind of included, now that we've got the framework of that timeline, then you can kind of plug in, okay, which pieces of content do we want to include at which points? Now, with any sort of, campaign preparation, before we get into the weeds, you want to make sure you set clear goals. So like I mentioned, figure out when do we need to have our goal met by, and then working backwards for when you need to start promoting and getting the word out about this. But also know your audience. Who are you trying to reach? What motivates them to give? And again, I think this goes back to defining your why. Getting people excited about what you're trying to do for the kingdom of God, whether that is through, for missions, both here and abroad, but even, a building campaign. Like the Lord is using that in order to build his kingdom. And so casting a compelling vision is just it's the foundation to all of this. I'm going to keep saying it over and over. You'll probably get annoyed with me, but whatever. And then also finally, that can help inform and creating your campaign calendar. This just helps you stay organized, helps you stay on track, gets all of your team on the same page of what's going out, when, where, how, all that good stuff. But also 3 other things to consider as you're putting together, each week's message, right? So you need to consider your message, your audience, and which elements you're going to include at each point in time of that campaign, right? So your message, what are you trying to communicate at each point? So at the start, it's really just building excitement, introducing what this is, casting vision, right? But as you go, your audience might not always be, we're just hitting our regular recurring givers every week. You might want to target, some like infrequent or non-givers sometimes to just speak to them specifically and tailor your message to those folks to invite them into something really cool that you guys are doing as a ministry. And then elements, which types of media and communication are you wanting to use to get your message out? I feel like there's so many ways that you can do that. And sometimes it can be a little overwhelming. So we've actually put together some sample email templates, and some ideas and ways that you guys can implement this in your own giving campaigns, right? We've put together some recurring giving talking points for you that you can use because one of the most underrated methods, I think, when it comes to talking about giving is from the pulpit, right? I feel like when you talk about anything in person, it creates a personal connection to not only the person that you're speaking to, but the message you're trying to get across, right? And so I think having that specific, message from the pulpit is there. But like I said, talking about finances is weird. Talking about giving can be a little awkward. And so we wanted to put together some talking points to help you through that as well, but also leveraging emails, physical newsletters, text messages, maybe some voice messages, but social media, y'all, that's a big one. You can cast a wide net with social media. So we put together some templates and things for you guys to use to hopefully leverage that as you're kind of trying to pursue and launch a successful giving campaign in your ministry.
Wait, let's jump back real quick. Jared, did you guys use any of these methods? I mean, I'm assuming you guys talked about this from the pulpit.
Yeah, for sure. We were heavy on email and mail, snail mail out to people, but we did a series of generosity for 4 weeks. So we had pulpit messaging, and those were connected with a couple other things that I thought were really successful. One was that we found people in our congregation who had something specific around generosity or gratitude or ministry. And we actually did a short video of them. We shared that as an illustration on Sunday morning.
Love that. Love that.
And then we put it on our website, so you could still go back and look at those later. But yeah, hearing other people just who have had a great experience with Plum Creek, who have been part of ministry, and the kingdom of God has made a difference in their lives. To be able to share that and help spur on generosity was super helpful. We also did a 21-day devotion. And we just wrote a short devotion that went along with the sermon series. And every day that got emailed out to people who opted in through our People software. And it was also available on our app. That helped keep everybody kind of on that biblical study of generosity, keeping their hearts and minds in that spot while we were talking about it.
I love it. So glad I asked you. I didn't actually know the answer to that one, but I'm glad I asked. That's best case scenario right there. Tammy said it. Telling stories is powerful. It's true. We connect with people. That's why we want to be involved in their lives or in their growth, or, when we're inspired, we want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. So yeah, that's a super, super powerful way to do that. And I mean, if you've got brave enough people in your congregation to have them come up and actually share in person, that's awesome. If not, y'all, do not underestimate a little selfie video that they've taken in their home. I mean, it doesn't have to be some full-blown production video. It can be truly just like, hey, share your heart in the same way that you would, sending a video to your grandma or whatever. It doesn't have to be crazy professional. It's just the story and the heart behind that really does make such a big impact.
That's a really good point, Jess. I'd like to touch on is that all of these, volunteers that we had, we don't have a video department here at our church.
Mm-hmm.
This was all just done with volunteers, mostly with iPhones on the video front. All of our communication, the logos and everything, were just volunteers at Plum Creek who wanted to use their gifts that they had been given, that they may use on a daily basis at their work, and they never thought about how they could use it in the kingdom. So,
Love it.
Yeah, there are people in your congregation that can do these kinds of things, and probably most teenagers can do a great video for you.
Honestly.
Amen. That's right.
That's
I
awesome.
love it.
And to kind of expand on communication strategy as well and how to talk about it. I think, like we mentioned, sometimes it can be like icky sticky, right? A little awkward, but embracing the benefits that we talked about earlier to the ministry and also to the donor, I feel like it can help eliminate some of the discomfort of the ask. And to Jared's point, I think they modeled this really well, is being transparent. I think, being not just transparent in like, what will this allow us to do? Who will this allow us to bless? But also like, here's what we're doing with the money that you're giving us. Here's where we're at in the campaign. We might be a little behind, just like, just being transparent. I think, Jared, you guys did this so well. And I know you've already talked about that transparency that you guys had, but anything else that kind of comes to mind about how you guys really did lean into transparency during a campaign like this?
Yeah, we were just really specific about the things that we wanted to do next. All of the campaign money that comes in is going directly to the principal of our debt.
Yeah.
But the debt reduction campaign really wasn't about debt reduction. It was about ministry we could do in the future. And I mentioned that already. But we also put together a reach team. So this ties in a little bit to communication, but also to celebration.
Mm-hmm.
So the reach team is the only team that's still functioning out of the campaign. All the other ones have completed their tasks. But the reach team goes on for 3 years, and their responsibility is to really just communicate once a month in our newsletter. They are also looking at milestones that we can celebrate. So we're getting ready to go under $1 million in debt coming up here in the next couple months, and they're planning on buying a bunch of cupcakes and just having them out in the gathering area for people to celebrate. So, those folks that are giving on a recurring basis, that might feel kind of passive. That's just a way to draw them in. So we also, it's a way to help them feel like they're still a part of it, because they very much are. We also created a a thermometer. Now, I want to be careful with that. It doesn't look like a thermometer. We had a creative person, volunteer, who came up with this idea for first fruits offering, that like
Mhm.
this idea of grain offering. So periodically, whatever our total is for our campaign, we pour an amount of grain in this big clear cylinder. So every Sunday when somebody walks in, they can see this cylinder filling up with grain, to kind of
Mm,
remind them back of the biblical story, but also to help them know this is where we are on our journey to be debt free.
That's
that's
amazing.
really cool. That's
Yeah, it's
such a
fun.
cool visual.
Yeah.
Um, Okay, so I'm going to pause real quick and say, Jared and Kristen, we could chat all day long. We have a lot of content to get through. So we're going to move a little bit more quickly. Um, just for everyone that's in attendance, this webinar is just we're going to keep going, and we're going to talk until we've gotten through our content. But if you need to sign off at any point at the top of the hour, if that was how long you were planning to be with us, that's okay. Again, this will be recorded and it will be sent to you tomorrow. But we are probably going to go past the hour. We're going to try to move a little bit more quickly, but I did want to just call that out real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jess, you mentioned this earlier, but just wanted you guys to see what Jared and his team had on their website, that dedicated page that he was talking about with all of the resources, that go along with this campaign. It's really great that you guys were, not only transparent in the way that you talked about it, but that you made everything available as well. So just wanted to call that out. Really super cool. And then a small piece, something that you can do with our giving platform specifically, we have something called an impact report. And no matter what platform you're using, any way that you can incorporate some sort of update on your digital giving form, just make sure you keep an eye on it and actually make sure it's up to date, whether that's monthly, quarterly, if it's, an everlasting thing, just for giving in general. But having some sort of visual picture that you can paint of what God is doing with the funds that people are being generous with, and giving toward those efforts is really powerful and a really cool way that you can continue to provide and encourage excitement around your mission.
Mm.
All right, so we do want to talk about some ways that we can help you do that with some feature highlights that you can use within our giving or our people or CHMS, our church management systems. I'll breeze through this, okay? But you guys are going to get a recording here. So in our people or church management system, we have a pledges feature. And what this does is it allows you to keep track of donor commitments to a giving campaign over a set of time. It's super easy. All you have to do is create a campaign. So like, a building campaign, for instance, create that bad boy right there, set your goal, and then you just input people's pledges. You can create a paper pledge card, and just collect those, input, what people have committed to give here. And then as people give, you just add those donor contributions to your system, and you'll be able to see kind of in your reports here, a dashboard of, okay, where are we at? How are we doing? Is, our goal, have the pledges met that goal? Or have we exceeded that goal? That's always very exciting. And so, that's one way that you can leverage a ministry brand solution in order to just be as effective as possible as you can in your giving campaigns, right?
And Jared, this is how you guys primarily did yours.
Yeah, I brought along a pledge card. We just had a pledge card here that they filled out. It was super easy to create the pledge and put it in our people software there. And what I loved about it most were that my leaders were able to get to log on to their people platform and be able to click on their dashboard and see real time where we were. So we had the senior minister getting up on stage, getting ready to announce where we were, and he was able to pull it right up on his phone. So that was a great feature.
Yeah, that's powerful right there, real time. And then people can give and you could see it in real time. I mean, not really because you have to enter it in, but that's awesome.
In theory. Now, if you don't have our church management system or our people platform with Ministry Brands, our giving solution also has a feature called Pledge Drives. And what this allows you to do is create a digital pledge card, which is pretty cool, where people can commit to giving a certain amount over a series of time. It's, again, another three-step process, right? You create a fund for your campaign, and then you're going to create the digital pledge drive, right? So set your goal, get all your settings where you'd like them to be, and then create your pledge card where people can give directly from their phones, or commit to give, directly from their phones. Each form that you create with our giving platform also has its very own QR code, embed code, direct link. So it's incredibly easy to share, even on the fly. If you're, happen to see a church member in line at a coffee shop, and they're like, "Oh, I missed it this past Sunday," and you're like, "No worries, scan this QR code off of my phone." Be super handy dandy like that. So very easy, very convenient there as well. Now, staying on the topic of giving, something that I think is really important, especially when digital giving is kind of involved. Making giving as accessible as possible, I think, is really helpful. And one way to do that, because the digital landscape is ever changing, right? Technology is advancing so fast. Enabling digital wallets on your forms makes it just opens a whole new world of opportunity. And Jess, I know you can speak to this too. So, and I'm steamrolling, so just yell at me or raise a flag.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, we have talked so much about digital wallets in the last few webinars, so I won't be exhaustive, but generally speaking, the benefit of a digital wallet is that people don't have to take their tiny thumbs and enter their credit card information, assuming they have a card or payment method saved in their Google Wallet or their Apple Pay. I use Apple Pay for everything that makes Apple Pay available. If I'm shopping from my couch, if it does not have Apple Pay, I do not purchase most of the time. So that just allows your donors to give so stinking quickly, and it's allows you to invite them into the process and act immediately. So really important. And then the next slide too, I know, Jared, I would love for you to share y'all's experience with stock and crypto.
Yeah, when we were having some of our events, we were sharing with people about some opportunities to give through stock specifically, that there were a lot of tax benefits with that, and they weren't aware of those tax benefits. So I had never taken crypto or stock or crypto before at Plum Creek, so I wasn't sure how to do that. I called my friends at Ministry Brands, and they were like, "Oh, we have a solution for you." So we were able to add the giving block to our giving platform, and we brought in so far over $150,000 in stock donations. So that was something that just we wouldn't have thought of before. So when we started thinking about this campaign, it was a way to help our members who weren't aware of the benefits to be able to give in a really generous way.
Yeah, and if you aren't already accepting stock in crypto, we actually have two polls that we totally spaced, and I did not even think about launching those. I do want to launch the poll about stock in crypto just because I am so curious about usage here on that. So I'm going to go ahead and it's already up there. Somebody is so fast on the trigger. I think it's Kristen.
I got you, girl.
In the same bar over there where you all are chatting with us and you have questions, go ahead and click on poll. It's the middle one on my screen with a little red dot. And just let us know, like, it doesn't have to be through our platform, but in general, as a ministry, are you all accepting stock in crypto right now? And we've really only given you three options here: yes, no, or I'm not sure. And I'm not seeing any votes come through yet. So anyone out there?
Oh, I voted.
I don't think your vote counts, Kristen.
Man, that's unfortunate. I feel so unseen. That's okay. We're gonna keep trucking along while you guys
we'll leave
are doing
that open.
that.
You guys are more than welcome to answer that.
And one thing I did want to say too on our front with the digital wallets, Venmo, and the stock, all of those things with our with our giving software, just automated right through. It goes and assigns it to the pledge person, and it's all super handy. So all of that was really easy. Thank you guys for that.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so other ways that your giving platform, specifically with our digital giving form, that you can make recurring giving even more a part of your culture is by enabling two settings here that we've got on the screen. So you can set your default payment type to recurring if it isn't already. And after somebody gives a one-time gift, you can prompt them to make that one-time gift a recurring option, right? So sometimes if I'm in a hurry and I just gotta give real quick and then go, I might just miss the fact that recurring giving is an option. And so having it be the default, now people can always click away from this and give a one-time gift, ain't no thing. But just having it in front of people, letting them know and making it accessible that this is an option, and inviting them into that as well. That faithful stewardship, all of that good stuff. It's really helpful. It just helps people to see the options that they have. So definitely something too small. It's just 2 clicks, 2 little check boxes, super easy, right? So 2 little things that you can do to help with that. So, all right.
All right. So yes, we alluded to this at the very beginning of the presentation, but again, what we don't want to do through encouraging convenient giving is passive generosity, right? And Kristen used the phrase, it's an act of worship. I could not agree more. Giving is obviously biblical. It is sacred. Truly, it is an act of faith for folks to say, I hear the Holy Spirit. First of all, that in and of itself is something that should be, respected and revered. They're willing to listen to the Holy Spirit. They're willing to take faith and action on a certain amount. And then, something else is being sacrificed so that they can give back. All of that should be very much appreciated, acknowledged. And so Kristen's going to talk through some ways to combat passive generosity here. And yeah, celebration's a big piece of this, but Kristen, take it away.
Yeah, so I think Jared spoke to this too about how they just came together to celebrate, not even to ask people for money, but just to I don't know, just celebrate what God has done through through your people's generosity. And I think that's so huge. Like we said, giving is an act of worship. God loves a cheerful giver. Goodness gracious. And so some ways to combat passive generosity, just intentionally celebrating your donor's generosity is so important. And that comes right alongside just gratitude, expressing that gratitude in every which way that you can. That celebration helps you to shift that culture from being transactional, like a subscription service that we kind of forget about, to relational. And so I think that's super huge, especially when it comes to money, because money can make things weird sometimes. And so I think making sure that relationship is primarily relational is really important with your donors. And next, we have, just one little thing you can do in our product is something I recommend is personalizing your recurring giving email template. So anytime somebody gives a gift, whether they've set it up to be automated, so they don't have to think about actually manually giving that gift each week or each month or not, they're going to get an e-receipt, right? And so anytime that gift processes automatically or not, or especially automatically, I recommend quarterly going in and just like updating this recurring gift e-receipt so that you can celebrate what the Lord has done over the past couple of months. So that helps keep people engaged and excited and invested in your mission as well.
Yeah, you can also include like links and images in these emails. So that's noteworthy, right? So if you wanted to say instead that subject line, you have your gift reaching hearts. Love that. What if we said, see how your gift is reaching hearts? And then in that email, there's a link to see, the Smith family's story or how your gift impacted a local school or whatever. But you can really leverage these emails so that they're more than just a receipt, right? They are an invitation to continue to partner as well as a celebration of their existing partnership. Jared, did you guys leverage any of this in your thank you emails or how did you thank your people?
Yeah, actually, again, because we had the reporting available, our senior minister actually wrote a handwritten note to every first-time person who made a donation or a pledge. So we did it that way, and that reach team that I talked about before, they're also planning at least annual letters in addition to our giving statements. Annual letters that would come out to let them know where we are on making progress towards our goal, but also how much of the debt we're paying down.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
absolutely. So other ways to make sure that nobody slips through the cracks, right? That you make sure you intentionally celebrate your donors' generosity is through automation. And our People platform actually has something called workflows. This is a system that you can leverage to automate everyday ministry processes to make sure that nobody falls through the cracks, right? And so some of those things that you can do with workflows are, pardon, you can celebrate and thank first-time givers. It's the first time that somebody has given a gift, and so you can set up a workflow so that it sees, okay, this person gave for the first time. We're going to automate it to send them this specific email outside of just their giving receipt, right? Or for any of these other things on the screen here, like thanking givers for giving to specific funds, or continuous giving, making contributions over a certain amount. You can also automate to trigger something called an interaction where you can assign a personal follow-up task to someone on your staff to
It's one of my
personally
favorite
reach
things.
out. Yes, it's so great. And it just makes it more, I have said personal like 8 times in the past 30 seconds, but it does make it so much more personal. And that goes a long way with folks just feeling seen.
Yeah.
And also, one of the things up there, you can follow up with people who have stopped giving, right? Because ministry isn't just, we're not just trying to celebrate, people who said yes, right? We are still called to care for everybody. And so making sure that you follow up with folks who have stopped giving as well. This is one of my favorite things that it does because it helps you to make sure that people feel seen and known and loved no matter where they're at or what they're going through. So you can check in there as well.
Yeah. Wait, go back. We're going to hang out there for just one more second. These are pastoral clues, right? This is how you know when people need extra love. I think, attendance is a great gauge. And then giving is a huge gauge. Volunteer, whether they've been volunteers for a long time and then they suddenly stopped, right? These are opportunities for you to shepherd your people well. These are the 99 and the 1. This helps you identify the one that needs the extra love. So completely agree, Kristen, but I think it goes for more than and just giving. It's engagement in general. The more engagement points you track, which a good CHMS will do that for you. Ministry brands absolutely will. And then setting up those interactions literally is like a notification for the person on your team that needs to, oh, wow, the Moores stopped giving. I hope they're okay, right? Did Jeff lose his job? Do we need to step in and help support them in some capacity? So it's just a little notification for you to say, how can I pastor well and dig in here?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good call out, Jess. Something else, this is the last thing that we'll call out, but throughout a giving campaign, something you could do is do like a quarterly giving statement. We always do those annual giving statements for just before tax season, right at the end of the year. But I think it could be really cool to, I don't know, for campaigns specifically, to send out a little quarterly statement or a periodic statement to give them that update as well if they're not, seeing the recurring giving email, right? So, something to highlight with those things are cumulative giving highlights, but like, thank you so much for your generosity. Like, this much has allowed us to do, and then get into that kingdom impact celebration, right? This is what your generosity has allowed us to do for the kingdom, and include a personal message of gratitude from your leadership team. I think that's always really important, just to make sure that, again, we want this relationship to be relational, not transactional, especially when money's involved. And so something else that you can do there, just a practical little something. This example is also included in the ebook as well. So make sure you check that out. that's all I got for you, Jess.
Lots of good stuff. Yeah, we flew through the last little bit of that, but thank you so much, Kristen and Jared. I mean, this has been so great. This is such a holistic view of giving campaigns, the importance of them, the impact that they can have. So I'm so thankful to both of you for joining me today. Friends, we're going to launch a survey. Kristen, if you can launch that. Thanks again for engaging with us through the polls and this survey. We're not seeing results on this survey. This is for us to review after the fact. This allows me and our team to continue to put together valuable webinar content for you. These webinars continue to be well registered and well attended. That tells us that y'all enjoy webinars. And so I just want to know what we want a webinar about. What do you want to hear more about? And so that's one of the questions. There are other questions there as well, but that's the one I care most about. So make sure you answer that one. And thank you again for your time joining us. We've got literally one more slide here, and this is what's next. And so I've spoken to it throughout the webinar today, but you're going to get this recording in your email tomorrow. You're also going to get this essential guide to church giving campaigns. Guys, this is more than just the samples of the things that we talked about today. This ebook is so good. It is detailed. It's easy to follow. I know that we had a couple people in the chat say, will this be recorded because I want to share this with other people at my church, at my ministry. So yes, definitely share the webinar recording with them, but I'd encourage you to share the ebook and come together as a team to plan a giving campaign. Again, big picture, yes, we are raising money during a certain amount of time towards a certain goal. But really what this is doing is it is saying, hey, look how we are being an example of stewardship. We are modeling stewardship as leaders in your ministry, and we are inviting you to obey God in faith partnership with our ministry. Here's what we're doing with your money. You can trust us. So holistically, it's more than just putting together a campaign to raise money. This is a very practical, tangible way that you can continue to build a culture of generosity at your ministry. So any last thoughts, Kristen or Jared?
I think we've covered it.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks again, folks. We're so thankful that you've spent some time with us today, and we will see you next month for another webinar. And again, thanks, Kristen and Jared, for joining me.
Sure.
Okay, take care.
Bye, friends.
Bye.